Today's episode is sponsored by Foley Mechanical. Dan Foley is a high school classmate of mine. He's been in the HVAC business his whole career. The last 20 years at Foley Mechanical, they're truly specialists in custom homes, older homes. When you have to know the building, and experience really means a lot. I just want to thank Dan for his support of Northern Virginia sports and of the podcast. Toyota Nova Legends podcast on the first day of school, at least in Loudoun County. I'm going to take a few questions and answers on my podcast episode regarding the VHSL Realignment. A lot of folks have strong opinions on this because a lot of folks are living this life, and people know a lot about it and may have a different perspective than I do. But I just wanted to give a couple thoughts on that. If you remember, I criticized the new realignment plan, and I haven't seen the official plan. I know there were some objections to people's placement. But one of the regions, 5B, was only 6 teams. A region 5A, which is near that, was 19 teams. There was inequities in the number of teams in each region, which I thought was unfair with the 6 classifications. And some teams I felt were being moved down, and they're really great programs in almost every sport, like Battlefield and Patriot, going down to 5, and they're excellent sports programs. And like Loudoun Valley out in Loudoun County is going down to 3, and Princess Anne, for example, is going down to 4. They've won 15 straight girls state basketball championships or something like that. So anyway, my point was that enrollment is just one piece of the puzzle. It means much more at smaller schools where a 200-person change in enrollment can double a school, but it just doesn't mean that much at bigger schools. A incremental change of enrollment means nothing compared to demographic, coaching, administration, all the other things. So I just felt like all these micro adjustments with 6 are happening because we're trying to make 6 classifications work, and it's not working. We're crowning too many champions. The champions aren't playing because they're in different classifications. Teams are having to travel far away for regional and district games instead of playing teams locally. It's hard to have tournaments if there's so many classifications. The basketball tournament used to be a really big deal, but now there's 12 different champions, 6 boys, 6 girls. You can't have a Final Four in the same city anymore. It would be lunacy. So these are things that can happen if we went back to 3 or let's say 4 classifications. 4, we'll add 1 to the original 3 that will take care of the smaller schools. Obviously, the biggest pushback I got was from small schools saying, hey, this is going to screw us over. We're going to leave the VHSL. The default position for certain parts of the state is always leave. But I understand it's different demographic, and we have to try to do things to make everyone happy if we can. That was the biggest one. One small objection is not enough teams will make the playoffs, but that's a non sequitur because you could make as many teams eligible for the playoffs no matter how many classifications you have. One objection I got a lot of was it's about money. You make more money with 6 classifications. I don't agree with that. I think since I've gone to 6, I see less attendance at the state tournaments. You've really watered down the competition. It's just competition for the local, for the supporters of the school and also the players, which is great. But the neutrals are totally gone from the state tournament. If you go down to Richmond for the basketball tournament, it's the afternoon games. There's nobody there. It's really embarrassing. So it can't be about money. If you're saying if it's you want to have home sites for certain games because you get that home gate, you can still do that with 3 or 4 classifications as well, even though I don't think that's necessarily the best way to do things. When you have home associations, officials, and home court, I'm not sure that's the best deep in the tournament. But if it's about money, you can still do that. So it can't be about money, especially most of these sports are non-revenue sports. So it's just logistical nightmare. But I think the best objection is that, look, you can't, 6 classifications, if you reduce that, it's hard to get teams in the same district. And I actually disagree with that generally. I think and I said this last time, with a state the shape of a triangle, the less classifications you have, the easier it is to group local teams. But it is true, if we want to get the historical districts, the ones that have been around for a long time in the region, it is probably easier if there's more options in the area. But still, you're going to have smaller districts, you're going to have smaller regions, a lot of inequities. But there is a point that if you do go down to 3 or 4 classifications, you may have, I did some AI models, and if you're going to have every district the same team and every region the same number of teams, you are going to have some districts that have teams far away, especially in the single, class 1 and class 2, if we go to 4 classifications, because the southern part of the state is vast, and you have those schools spread around the state. So it is a valid argument. But here's what I think may solve that issue. We're using combined districts around the state, and there's some out in the valley here near Hanley and Jameswood, and some of those schools it's a 3 and 4 district. With even Meridian, I believe, is in that district, Fauquier. And then you have in the Tidewater area, in the peninsula, you have some combined districts. That's not the perfect situation, because you have, with PowerPoints, you have problems with seedings for regional tournaments, and then people want to skip because of you might get dinged if you schedule a team under your classification. It makes scheduling tough. But let's say, for example, we stick with the current plan and take teams out of their district for regionals and state. And I think that can really open things up, all right? Especially if we can get this PowerPoints situation right and equitable, which is not easy. I think you either eliminate districts, eliminate regions, and just, if it's 4 classifications and there's 320 schools, you go 4 classifications of 80 schools, right? And then instead of having after districts, or instead of districts, you go in the regionals, or let's say the postseason, you have 80 teams, and you pick a number that qualifies for the state playoffs. Let's say in football, 16. So you go, let's say 16 of the 80 teams each classification qualify for the postseason. And then from there, you group locally. So you take four sub-regions of 4, and then you group those local, and then you seed them according to their PowerPoints. Then you have, those teams are relatively close together, because that's how you're seeding them, and you have some seeding done by PowerPoints. It would be better if it was NCAA, in that the 1 seed is the 1 seed no matter where they are, and then you can do a 1 versus 16 somewhere. But let's say for high school, we're going to just try to group them locally in 4s. That will allow you to have a local, a game, a relatively local game. And then let's say you win your sub-region. That could be your regional champion. So if you win 2 games, you get to the Final 4. You're the regional champion, and you go to state. That'll work, because then you take teams out of their historical districts and historical regions, and you just find out who has the highest ratings, and they make the playoffs. Pick a number. For football, probably 16, because your playoffs, you don't want to be that long. For all other sports, maybe it's 64, maybe it's 32. If we do away with district tournaments and just have the district regular season title, or no districts at all, it's all about PowerPoints, then maybe you go 64. And I think the reason why, there's already a trend going this way. If you look at the NFL, if you certainly look at the NBA, it's all about they don't care about conferences anymore. It's all about your divisions anymore. It's all about your ranking. It's all about your ranking now. In soccer, pro soccer, you'll have 20 teams in the Premier League, and it's all about your points. And that's how that determines champions. I think this is an option, and I think it will allow us to group teams generally by enrollment. Generally, we'll be able to get some of the rivalries that we miss with 6 classifications. I think we'll be able to have a greater state tournament in basketball, and I think we'll be able to have better playoffs in football. But I think doing this and just thinking outside the whole district regional structure, if that's possible, I think it really opens things up. And it allows you to move teams up and down. Like say, you may want to get to a point where Princess Anne can go up in class, where Princess Anne, the rest of the basketball team can go up for the girls, but the rest of the programs go down in class. It gives you more. It's easier to group teams then because it's all about. If there's 80 teams in each classification, it's all about PowerPoints. Now the key is PowerPoints. You have to find a way to do PowerPoints that it's fair. You got to, for example, if teams are playing out of state teams, you want to be able to count those games. If Highland Springs or Maury's playing Wise, we want to encourage those great rivalries. So maybe it's more of maybe it's a max prep staying in that you can somehow give them credit for out of state games as well. So we have to tweak though the PowerPoints, and it shouldn't be about classification anymore. We don't want to discourage teams from playing teams because of the classification. If Meridian is a 3 and they're great in Northern Virginia, and let's say they have a better year than Falls Church, because their PowerPoints prove it. Well, it's not going to be a ding to Marshall down the street to play them because Meridian's beating teams and their PowerPoints reflect that. So Marshall's PowerPoints reflect that. So I think it may be time to revisit leaving the districts and regions behind, the historical, at least the regions behind, and just at the postseason, pick a number that are going to go to the state playoffs. Football 16, let's say basketball 32 or 64, and then group them locally by a little sub-region, like 4, so 4 groups of 4, and seed those teams by PowerPoints, and that's how you get your playoffs. So you accomplish a lot of things here. You're going to have relatively close in enrollment, close together. We have less champions. You're going to have more of a buzz. I think this might be a solution in a way to go forward and stop having, every 2 years to do micro adjustments to this classification system that's not working. And if we have to make adjustments, though, with this system, with no districts and no region, or a district that means less, it's going to be easier to move teams up and down. And look, we're already taking teams out of districts and putting them in other regions for playoffs. So we're already embracing part of that. So I think this might be something that we need to look at. I'd love to know your comments about this. Please leave them in the comment section below, or if this is Facebook, that's fine. But please subscribe, like, and share. Good luck first day of school, everybody.